Welcome to the panel. I'm too incredibly excited. Every person on this panel is a trailblazer. Sometimes that can be a good thing, sometimes that can be a challenging thing based on the feedback that they get. But when I try and simplify what we're trying to achieve in this space when we're talking about whether it's digital assets, cryptocurrency, underlying blockchain, be it private or be it public, the question I always ask is, what is the problem we're trying to solve? And are we achieving that? In the most basic form, what we're talking about here is the most efficient way of transferring some form of wealth or value from one place to another. That, for me, is the question. Are we answering a problem, ultimately solving a problem, or just creating fresh ones? I want to start with Umar, JP Morgan. Problem that you were trying to solve here.
I think, Julia, first of all, great to be here. I think JP Morgan is, as many people know, one of the largest payment banks in the world. We clear about $6 trillion a night, so we do know a little bit about how payments work. We also know where the pain points are, frankly, better than most. And when we look at wholesale payment landscape, if you think about payments that move across the globe, how people exchange value, how much friction there is, we believe there's a better way to do this, and we're trying a number of technologies, frankly, JP Morgan and blockchain being one of them. But for us, it always starts with a client and a client's issue that we're trying to solve. In this case, much better, much more efficient payments globally versus the means. And I think if the means become the end, then you end up creating a bubble.
Well, we'll come back to it. We'll come back to that point. Christian, Calibra and Libra, we'll separate them.
Yes, so our problem is slightly different in the sense that when we started looking at blockchain technology, as you know, the project was incubated within Facebook and Calibra, but is now being advanced by the Libra Association, which includes us as one of the members, but only one of 21. So I preface everything I'm saying today is on behalf of Calibra. The problem we had in mind when we started thinking about the economic tensions here was one where, when you look at the web, the technology has been around for 30 years, but about 1.7 billion people today are still unbanked and or severely underbanked. So there's potential here for using blockchain technology and the formal governance that we're proposing through the Libra Association to really solve last mile issues and solve problems for real people. These are people that today get charged 7% on average. These are World Bank data when they send home a remittance. We think that cost is way too high when you count all the intermediaries involved in that flow, and we can have a massive impact by really helping unbanked and underbanked accessing the global financial system in a more effective way. So that's where we started. That's what drove all the decisions around the reserve, the design of Libra as a protocol and as a network, and that's what we're doing also on the Calibra side every day, trying to understand how do we help real people in real countries trying to send money cross-border.
And make money along the way.
Well, of course.
Just checking. What's China trying to achieve here? Talking about a digital coin and the sort of dramatic shift that we've seen in the last few weeks to push and understand and promote the benefits of blockchain technology. What's China trying to achieve here?
Well, actually, we are quite different from JP Morgan coin and Libra because we are not targeting the wholesale side. We are not targeting the cross-border payment side. We are actually just a CBDC. We are actually trying to provide a redundancy to our very advanced electronic payment systems because, in China we have two big players. They have already taken a big chunk of the whole market share, but, they are running very systematically important payment systems. But, every private company, they have their life cycle, and they may encounter financial problems, they may encounter technical problems. We have to provide a redundancy or a redundant system just in case there is something bad happen to the financial infrastructure, because now Chinese people already go out without any wallet in their pocket. So we have to be prepared for anything that happens. Secondly, the Chinese electronic payment market are now pretty fragmented. We want to have a smoother and universal payment solution. Thirdly, for those remote and rural area, we have to cover for those poor people and people without traditional banking accounts. We are trying to be financially inclusive.
To your first point though, what you're saying is, in essence, WeChat Pay, Alipay are too powerful. The risk is that perhaps one of them fails and you have a real problem. You need to diversify your payment system in China. That's what you're trying to achieve here.
That is correct.
Interesting. We're going to come back to that too. Come in here, Serena, tell us what you guys are doing.
First of all, I have to put a disclaimer, I'm not a techie person, but I dress the part, I've got my jeans, couldn't ditch the heel yet, sneaker will come eventually. We didn't start with blockchain or anything, we start with a problem, with many problems. In Cambodia banking system, we have a lot of people who don't have access to formal financial services. We've got the banks who connect to each other, who talk to each other in terms of their mobile payment services. And then we have the payment service providers who don't talk to each other at all and who don't even talk to the banks. But in terms of the mobile payment service, in terms of e-wallet penetration, it's much greater than the banks. Our mobile phone penetration is huge. We have a population of 60 million and the mobile subscription is 20 million. So we see here there's a potential. So how can we bring the mobile payment service provider and the bank together? And because ultimately our goal of financial inclusion is not to get people to open wallets because it's not a means of saving. They should save in a proper bank account and earn interest. So we wanted the banks and the payment service provider to talk to each other. We also wanted the payment service provider to talk to each other because it's very ugly really to go to a merchant and you see all these QR code lining on the counter. So we wanted to simplify, to make life easy for the people. And so as we were exploring the solutions out there, we had the options of going through the traditional banking system, which is a centralized system, which we've done with the banks, which connects all the banks to the central banks through a centralized system, which we could do the same with the payment service provider. But it happened that there is this better solution, much cheaper to acquire and much easier to integrate with all the players. So then we explore this technology, DLT, it's Hyperledger Iroha, where we'll bring everyone into a unified platform. So the central bank would issue this wallet to everyone to use, anyone can download. The banks and the payment service provider are our agent who can get access to our tokenized fiat money, and then for the youth, they can then issue it to the end user. So basically, if you are a customer, you can go to a bank and you can withdraw money from your saving account and put it in your leather wallet, or you can withdraw this tokenized fiat money and put it in your digital wallet. And because everyone will be able to integrate our system through API into their own platform, then everyone will now be able to talk to each other. The good thing also about this blockchain technology, and again, I'm not a techie person trying to sound very knowledgeable on this, but the payment service provider are themselves technology companies. And if we were to bring them together on a platform, a clearinghouse and settlement system like we did for the bank, we would have to require them to manage their liquidity in a way that banks would do. And this is a lot of effort, a lot of regulatory compliance for them to do. Now through this technology, because it's peer-to-peer, these payment service provider, technology company, they don't have to go through that. So it simplifies life for everyone in a way.
It's fostering inclusion in a major scale. We'll come back to that because there's parallels with what Christian just said about what he's trying to achieve, and also parallels with that too, in what China's trying to achieve here. It's fostering an inclusive, a greater inclusive society, ultimately. What proportion of the Cambodian population is on Facebook?
Oh, that's about probably more than 60 to 70%.
Yeah, I believe it is. Obviously Facebook, not in China right now, but if you had to compare the two things, how do you feel about an e-payment system, a currency like Libra? What does that represent for Cambodia, given the fostering of that technology potentially is already 70% of the population?
So again, another disclaimer, whatever I say is my personal views. It doesn't necessarily represent my institution view.
Oh, please,
I think in principle, Libra is a good idea. So we're talking about developing countries. We have a lot of migrant workers in the region. We're trying to remit money back home, and it costs a lot of money for them to pay to these service providers, from somewhere between 10 to 30% of what they're paying. Now, if there is a solution where they can remit money cross-border in a much cheaper and more efficient way, that would be terrific. But having said that, there's a lot of things that I don't know about Libra, and we had a discussion with Christian just now as to, because Cambodia is a very dollarized economy, and the least we want is to bring a Libra into the picture and got dollarized, liberalized, and I don't know what's else coming in. So we have to really understand what is it that they're trying to achieve. And the little that I gathered is that it would just be used as a mean for cross-border transactions, and then whenever you got hold of it, you have to exchange the local currency and transact as normal as any payment platform.
Yeah, so again, it's important to take a step back and answer what was the use case, what was the problem we were trying to solve. And as I was mentioning before, remittances incur very high fees, especially cross-border. I think there's tremendous progress in many countries for national payment systems in unifying things around identity and how you can clear value really effectively with low frictions, low cost. But that's not true on the cross-border aspect. And so when you think about, an early use case for Libra would be exactly someone trying to send a remittance. And, the 7% number I was mentioning before is just an average. It actually hides a lot of dispersion around that 7%. In some regions, sending money cross-border can cost between 20 and 30%. So just pause for a second and ask yourself, from a financial inclusion and access perspective, what does it mean that, every dollar or every euro you send, there's a 30% tax? So, when you think about how Libra is likely to be used, my intuition is very much aligned with yours. People are trying to send money. We use the network to effectively and instantaneously move value between different regions. But then let's remind ourselves, what will people do with that value that they just received? In most cases, they won't have a choice. They needed to buy goods and services. So they will convert back to local fiat. And again, that's why Libra was always designed with this objective of being a very efficient cross-border medium of exchange.
Okay, I'm going to put the audience in here. Just put your hands up if you use a form of Facebook, whether that's Instagram, WhatsApp, whether you're on the Facebook app. Just put your hand up. Yeah, probably would be easier to. Oh, thank you for the light. Okay, keep your hands up. Okay. Now put your hand down. No, not yet. Wait for it. Put your hand down if you would use a payment system attached to Facebook, whether it's on Messenger, Instagram, WhatsApp. If that would make your life easier, transferring money among your friends, put your hand down if you would use that. Okay, so there are very few hands left up. These represent the resistance to whatever it is you're providing. Hi guys. Come in,
I think it may not be resistance, it's also maybe people have an alternate view. So we'd love to work with Facebook to solve the problem. I think, but the problem in some cases is more basic. The problem is there, but it's KYC, it's sort of making sure that transfers are legal and for the right reasons. So just saying, the amount of transfer, like whether the fee is 5%, 10%, 20%, if you look at the corridors that have done a lot of work on this, say, India, US to India is a pretty low cost remittance to the extent the other person has a bank account. So there are other problems to overcome to ensure you're within sort of the legal framework of moving money. And frankly, you don't need to have a blockchain to solve the problem. I mean, frankly, if you look at TransferWise and Zoom, they've solved cross-border problem to the bank population, and some of the unbanked are not covered. If you look at Ant or M-Pesa or WeChat, they've solved the inclusion problem. So people have solved the problem. It just necessarily doesn't have to be via like a cryptocurrency.
Is the problem solved by the electronics payment? I'll bring you in, Christian, in a second. But you're saying actually that you see the fostering, the harnessing of payment systems by WeChat Pay, Alipay actually is endangering the system because they're becoming too powerful. So where's the line between fostering greater inclusion and the utility that provides and a central bank like the Chinese central bank, the PBOC, stepping in and going, hang on a second, if someone's running this, we need to be running it.
I understand this question was the difference between WeChat Pay and Alipay and our CBDC, which is the DCP, if I understand correctly.
My question is, you've said that there is too much influence potentially from the likes of Alipay, of WeChat Pay, and that the central bank, the PBOC, needs to be running this electronic payment system.
Well, actually, the two players, actually, they have already taken 96% of our mobile payment system, mobile payment market share. So in that case, we have to be prepared because we have their life cycle. We have actually the technical disconnection ever happened before to either of those companies that the service were disconnected. That a lot of people got influenced. So in that case, we have to get prepared for those kind of situations.
Christian? So I don't think the problem is solved. Again, there's been domestic instances where the problem has been very successfully solved, but in the cross-border case, we're far from it. And yes, it's true that certain corridors have higher standards and needs from an AML and KYC cost perspective. But when we looked internally at least and tried to break those costs down, I think there's massive room for improvement. I think I speak for all the members of the Libra Association when I say that the goal is to have a network that is safe, secure, and actually meets and exceeds current standards for AML and KYC. We can use technology to make the process more safe and more secure. The current system has a number of flaws, so I think it's important to remember that there's an opportunity here also for improving on that dimension.
We're talking about a lot of the benefits here, fostering inclusion, cross-border payments, but what about the risks here? I mean, I was counting over the weekend 700 digital currencies. If we've got alternative currencies, be it a Libra, be it a different digital currency or coin operating in a traditional monetary system, is there a risk of loss of control of monetary policy?
So maybe I'll start. I mean, I think the risks are there in some ways they aren't very well understood. So I think what we are trying to do, or even what PBOC is trying to do, or even Cambodia is trying to do, is frankly not that different from what we do today. We are taking a currency that a central bank has created, monetary policy that's governed by a central bank, and creating a digital representation of that currency to solve a client problem, whatever the problem might be. I think when you think of things like, now we can go beyond Libra, and think of things like Bitcoin, the entire ecosystem has existed since 2009. It has never seen a stress cycle, ever. So when the next stress cycle hits, am I going to trust some smart people sitting in the Fed who've studied for years and years and they know how to deal with cycles, or am I going to trust some algorithm to kind of guide my future? I don't know, I mean, I'll probably pick the Fed. But again, that's a US point of view.
But the anarchists out there would say that all of you guys represent some form of centralized digital asset, and actually that's the last thing they want to be involved in. They would argue that with trillions of dollars worth of bonds trading with negative yields, the central bankers have had their time and they've screwed up the system.
I mean, I don't think that's a pretty limited point of view, and you can go with the anarchists because the anarchists don't believe in history. Now, you don't have to be a slave to history, but history does teach you certain lessons. I think monetary policy has historically been controlled centrally because when things go wrong, you need someone who can potentially break the rules to fix them. And I think that's what you're seeing. Frankly, people are breaking the rules a little bit to see if they can get the economy healthy in certain regions. Whether they will succeed or not is frankly not the expert. But I still think, it's a, the techno-libertarian anarchist point of view. It's out there. I don't think it's a big point of view.
You created a stable coin, JP Morgan coin. Libra, obviously the coin as a part of the payment system for Libra. If the New York Fed came out with its own version, would you abandon JP Morgan coin, Christian? You're already preparing for a future where the New York...
Well, from our perspective, from the start, it was clear to us that eventually central banks would be issuing some flavor of central bank digital currency. We wanted the system to be future-proof for that. In fact, if there was such a digital currency available in some of the jurisdictions that we're trying to build financial inclusion on, we would have definitely built on that. The challenge today is that there's no such digital on-ramp. And so, the Libra reserve and all the thinking that went into ensuring that actually Libra is based on assets that are managed, controlled, and generated by central banks is very much a complement to monetary policy.
But if there were, would you abandon Libra, particularly given the fear factor, the pushback, the real concerns from central banks that go, we don't want this running as an alternative in our country, and it's a viable alternative. Would you abandon Libra?
I think what's interesting is that Libra is meant to be a payment network, and so it's meant to be on top of those assets. So CBDCs would just streamline the operations of the reserve. It would make sense in that scenario to abandon Libra because now Libra would be even more effective. You could focus all your attention on that top layer, enabling cheap and fast payments, enabling all sort of innovation and applications on top of the central bank issued assets.
JP Morgan coin, die?
I'd be tempted to, yes, to kill it. But I think what you have to think about this is another risk in the system. So a central bank currency has to be very well designed, and you have to think through the implications for the system. So let's say the Fed was to issue Fed coin. We'd probably be tempted to kill Tidian coin, but if people could move their assets to the Fed's balance sheet, why would they actually keep it at the commercial bank level? And that would basically, in a stress cycle, that would kill the ability for commercial banks to extend credit. Now, maybe that's a bad thing or maybe that's a good thing. I'm not commenting on the outcome. I'm just saying that current commercial banking system that runs the world would be at risk if a central bank designed a major currency in a bad way.
Is China best positioned to design it in a good way? Because you have centralized control ultimately all of these layers.
Yeah, well, firstly, I think for Libra actually is targeting the cross-border payments. But actually, from my point of view, the answer is never the technology, because the cost and the inefficiency of cross-border payments actually result from the whole system design, the governance, the cost of loyal customer, and the cost of AML and safety is not from the technology cost. So you cannot solve this problem with new technology. That's my answer. So from my point of view, new technology is never the sole answer, the whole answer for the cross-border payment issues. So for our case, we are not targeting the cross-border payments. We are targeting the M0, which is the retail side of Chinese payment markets. And we also have a two-tier system. We keep the commercial banks in the loop, and we are actually a hybrid of account-based and value-based system. We can accommodate any technology could be employed by the second tier of the commercial banks. So we'll keep the monetary policy implementation untouched and the macro-prudential supervision untouched. And we'll keep the financial system as same as before.
So you're aiming to be cashless. You're aiming for a cashless society.
Well, I never imagined that China would become a cashless society. In my word, I would rather use the word cash-light society.
Cash light. One of the fears I think that people talk about with the PBOC, with the Chinese government, seeing all information, seeing full financial information, is that there's a great deal of power in that, switching off some parts of the population if they are considered undesirable. What's your response to that fear that this makes the government all the more powerful?
Okay, we know the demand for the general public, that is to keep anonymity by using the paper money or the coins, the magic coins, the meme coins, that keep the anonymity from the government. We are using a technology term that is controllable anonymity. And we will give those people who demand anonymity in their transactions, but at the same time, we will keep the balance between the controllable anonymity and anti-money laundering and CFT, and also those taxation, some kind of organization, also the online gambling and any electronic criminal activities. So that is balance we have to keep, and that's our goal. And we are not seeking full control of the information of the general public.
Do you want to go in now? No? Opening carefully as well. Three. Comment here. Does an alternative digital currency represent a threat to your control of monetary authority? Potentially.
Well, theoretically speaking, the central bank has the sole control over issuing money, and our job is to control money supply. Now, if somebody else come in and also issue their own currency, then possibly it can interfere with the way we conduct our monetary policy. So that's potential risk. But I like to echo the point that Mr. Moore was mentioning about Spider-Man said, with greater power comes greater responsibility. And I think this is something that we as central bankers are very aware, particularly at the National Bank of Cambodia. When we introduced our product, the one thing that we didn't want to do is to have everyone's information in our database. Because some things go wrong or anything, we'll have to respond to that. So what we did is we asked the banks to do the KYC. They have the information of their customer, just as with the usual services. We don't have access to this. And also we keep the commercial banks in the loop because we don't issue our tokenized fiat money directly to individual. The banks are the ones doing it. So in a way, you try to keep the traditional ways of conducting banking services as much as possible. And the reason is because as a central bank, the transmission mechanism of our monetary policy is through the banking system. And you take away the banking institutions from the equations, then you don't know whether what you're going to implement is going to be effective. And then unless we create a new monetary policy tool and new ways of transmitting all these policies, then at this stage we'll try to just make it as we're trying to make a small change as possible.
We'll come at it from slightly different directions, but obviously we've got the private sector approach, we've got the central bank approach, different forms of centralization of new technologies. Well, what can regulators do here to help foster, and what's the danger actually that they stem innovation because they simply don't understand?
I think our point of view to the regulators will always been two things. One is focus on the activity, not the technology. So I would completely agree. I think And that was my comment about like when the means become the end, you end up confusing the whole thing. And in many cases, we are trying to like shove in blockchain, like it's like a hammer looking for a nail all over the place and can't find it. But I think a lot of regulators get very excited or suspicious when the word coin is mentioned. What is a coin? It's just basically an accounting mechanism. So our view has been look at the activity and then regulate the activity in a manner that provides safety, soundness to the economy, similar to what they do today. So frankly, if Libra is a valuable means for doing cross-border regulations or cross-border transfers, they should be held to the same standard when it comes to AML, KYC, FATF, whatever it is. So from our point of view, one is activity-based, and secondly, consistency. So it's pretty important for the at least major regulators across the world to have some consistency. What you don't want is either a race to the bottom or a race to the top when it comes to innovation, and both of those cause issues. I think the one other thing I would say is, frankly, we are sort of scratching at the edge of what this technology can do. All the use cases mentioned here, I mean, they're exciting. They're not radical. Like, I mean, we can solve these problems with the right public policy and possibly other means. But when it comes to things like programming a coin, that's where the real power comes out. And I think we're still scratching the surface. I mean, think of electronic money that can monitor itself for AML and not go to the wrong person because that person doesn't have the right certificate from the authority. So there's ways to create the future, which is what we are frankly interested in. And I think the analogy I'll use is we are still sort of playing around in the Napster age. We're exchanging songs, it's kind of cool. Maybe it's slightly illegal in some cases, but it's kind of cool. But one day there will be iTunes, and then there'll be a day when there'll be Spotify. We just don't know what that is today.
Yeah. What about, in your situation, I mean, 2.4 billion monthly active users for Facebook, the reaction from the regulators was, I think, a cross between astonishment, alarm, and act now and ask questions a lot later, quite frankly. What can regulators do to help to not stem technology in this sphere?
And again, I think this is not unusual of innovation in general. So if you roll back the clock and look at some of the major innovation around electricity, so talk about some of the statements Edison made at some point about why bother experimenting with alternative current. Regulators always face a very tough job, which is between allowing for experiments to develop and to nourish them, and also making sure that they comply with some of the very serious concerns that they have on all sort of different fronts. So I think what's important to keep in mind here is that if you look at market structure, and take remittances as an example, if you look at the frictions from an economic perspective, these are real frictions, and so there's opportunity here for building on financial inclusion, for lowering costs. And of course there's also questions, and on the Calibra side, we had planned for a very collaborative phase with regulators across the globe. It's the one we're engaged in. Now the entire Libra Association is engaged in that process. We received tremendously valuable feedback already to date. Let's remind everyone that Libra is only 4 months old, so it may seem like the announcement was a long time ago, but I think when you think about these bigger, broader issues and the opportunity here, we're only 4 months in the making, and it's only since October that the association has come together as a new governing body to push the agenda forward. So, to regulators, my question and invite is to keep engaging in this collaboration and conversations, to give us feedback. We had no pretense that the design or the proposed original design was perfect, and so we're very much in the phases of observing the feedback, building on it, and eventually focusing on the problem. That's what keeps us motivated every day.
It's been interesting to see the reaction globally, but also in the United States, and the pushback, the fear, the need for regulation, the alarm, not just about the technology, but about the speculation in digital assets, digital currencies. China doesn't have to necessarily worry about that so much, and what we've seen in the past couple of weeks is a dramatic focus on investment in blockchain technology, promotion, videos explaining to the Chinese people what this is. It came right down from President Xi. Is China going to win this race for technology? in your view, Mr. Moot? And what does that mean? What does winning here mean?
Well, actually, I can only talk from my point of view. That is, like our design, system design for our own CBDC, DCP, the digital currency and electronic payments, we adopted a two-tier model. On the first tier, the central bank tier, we are actually technical neutral and business neutral. We don't intervene what kind of technical path the second tier, which are those commercial banks or commercial institutions are taking. So we are, like I said, we are actually account-based and a hybrid of account-based and value-based. We could accommodate any technology we use, either DLT or like a mobile money like M-Pesa, or electronic e-wallets, payment instruments. Either of those technology paths we can adopt, we can accommodate. So whatever they use, we could accommodate. That will be a market-driven approach. Let the market decide. Let market to, like a horse race. Who win the public? Who win the market? Who will win the race?
Could RMB coin be used to facilitate trade and investment in the One Belt, One Road project? Is that a possibility in the future? You said it's a focus on the domestic economy, but could it facilitate development, trade along the One Belt, One Road? Could Brazil one day use RMB coin?
Well,
Digital coin?
slightly misunderstanding our functions of our CBDC. We actually are focusing on the M0 substitution, the surrogate of M0, which is the paper note and coins in circulation. So we are focused on the retail side, the small amount usage, the small amount payment instruments. We are taking care of the daily payments services provided to the general public. We are not targeting those capital market. We are not targeting those trade financing sector. So,
Now or forever?
well,
Just asking.
with the development of financial markets, there could be some time in the future there will be a merge among M0, M1, M2, but it's far away from us. Now we are only targeting those M0 side. A very important consideration is from the monetary side, because we are actually just a digital version of RMB. That means 100% reserve will be deposited in the central bank. But if we extend our service to the M1 and M2 side, that means there will be, that will be the derivative in terms of deposit, and we'll have multiplier for the money. And that means we don't have enough reserve for the DCP issue. That will create a problem for the monetary policy implementation. So for now, we are not targeting the M1 and M0. We don't want to cause any problem to the monetary policy.
Early days in this technology. So very quickly, I'm going to put you on the spot. To foster greater trade with China, would Cambodia be willing to use an RMB coin?
It's too far away.
Good answer. Watch this. We're running out of time, but I want to go down the panel and just very quickly get your views on projecting 5 years forward. Best case scenario for this technology and worst case scenario. I'll start with you, Mark.
I think our best case would be to have a few large global platforms that are interoperable in terms of digital currency, which will solve, I think, a lot of the use cases and problems we are discussing, and consistent regulation. So that would be ideal. I think the worst case scenario would be, continued chaos and, frankly, this race to create more and more and more cryptocurrencies for just gave us something.
Is JP Morgan on the list of currencies that gets used, the JPM coin,
I think it's for our clients wholesale, and that's pretty much
where it stays? Where it stays? It stays just being used for clients?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Moon, worst case,
Worst
best
case.
case?
The bad news is, like my colleague said, that will be a chaos if there's a lot of cryptocurrencies issued without all those regulatory and oversight and legal issues well addressed. That will be turbulence for the whole global financial market. That will be the worst case. Best case, well, from the regulatory side, we will see, well, we are trying to promote the fast payment system developed in all the countries. And actually, most of those countries and central bankers are trying to promote fast payment system to solve the cross-border payment issues. At the same time, we are trying to build our own CBDC. We could have an alliance. That means a new MF currency, like ESDR, to solve these cross-border payments issues.
Backed by the renminbi?
Well, we've been part of the big family.
Okay, just be very clear. Could JP Morgan coin or Libra ever be welcome in China?
Well, that will be the question to listen, because I don't know how many people are using Facebook in China.
Yes, so, best case, we meet and exceed the Sustainable Development Standards. The goal there is 3%. I think a network like Libra on remittance costs can push this very close to zero. And the worst case, to be honest, is the status quo. People that are currently unbanked or severely underbanked keep paying very high fees and being taxed for being poor. So I think that's the challenge that we have in front when we think about cross-border.
I agree with that. Sorry.
Well, the blockchain, there's a lot of hype about blockchain, about it being the most secure technology out there, but as you know, Titanic sank on its first sail. So the worst case scenario is that somebody will crack the code and hack the whole blockchain technology and it will be quite a chaos. The best case scenario is that nobody hacked blockchain and it's still as safe as we know it now, and people can explore other possibilities and use case of it.
Wow, for somebody who's not a technologist, comparing the potential risks to a blockchain is potential Titanic in proportions.
But that's what I told my guys when they told me, because I'm not a techie person yet, and I barely can manage my Microsoft Office. And my guy came to me and said, let's use blockchain, it's the safest. And I said, well, you know what, Titanic sink on its first sail, but if we don't sail, then we would know if it would sink or not. So we tested it.
Time to sail. Your panel.